Hello and welcome. Today we're going to take a look at how to use the event tick. We're going to use the event tick in order to make something rotate. So with that being said, let's get started. Firstly, we need to create our blueprint. So we're going to right click, choose a blueprint class. And as always, as it's going to be something that's going to be placed into the scene here, we're going to choose actor and we're going to call this BP underscore. I'm going to call this coin, right? So we're going to make a coin spin. So before we do anything, let me bring in my coin model. And I will provide this model to you. Just look in the description below. Okay, so once that's all imported, let's quickly set up the material. Now, Unreal has some weird bug when things are imported, so we just need to change these to no map. Alrighty, once that's done, let's right click and we're going to create a material and it's called M underscore coin. I'm going to open up the material and all I'm simply going to do is create a very basic material. So let's click and drag the diffuse color in here. We're also going to bring in the metallic value. Let's bring in the normals. And finally, let's bring in the roughness. So let's just make a little bit of space here and plug the roughness in. And we should get something that looks like this. We can open up the model and we can assign the material. We should get something that looks like this, a very old looking coin. Okay, great. So once that's complete, now let's set up our blueprint. So we're going to open up our blueprint and the first thing we want to do is we want to bring in our coins. We're going to click and drag this in here. And this is an object that we want to be able to move. So we want to ensure that here on the right side, its movable is selected. If it is static and we try to animate something moving, it won't move. So just ensure that you have movable selected. Okay, great. Now let's look at the event graph over here. We're going to delete everything. And just as always, we're going to build it from scratch. So we're going to choose event tick. So the event tick is a way that we can execute something along its pathway, but it does it multiple times. And the amount of times that it executes depends on your frame rate. For example, if you have a frame rate of 60 frames per second, it means that whatever's connected to this tick is going to execute 60 times a second. If your frame rate in your game is 100 frames per second, it's going to execute 100 times per second. So it means that when dealing with small games or using it very sparsely, that's not a problem. But if you're having a very large game and you have hundreds, if not thousands of items that have lots of different things going on the tick, then we might have some performance issues. Anyway, so let's start by making it spin. If we to compile this right now and we click and drag our coin into the game and we press play, you can see that nothing is happening. So in order to make it spin, all we're going to do is open this up. We need to get our coin. I'm going to click and drag it into the graph. And we want to choose an option that says add local rotation. And we're going to click and drag this in here. And what's going to happen is that this event is going to fire off for every frame that's in my game. And it's going to add some rotation to it. Now let's take the Z and set this to be 1. And if we press play, we can see that it's starting to rotate in the Z axis. Now, if you wanted it to rotate randomly in some other way, you could set these also to 1 and maybe 0.5, and you'll get some random rotation if you want. You can sort of see what that looks like. So we get something that looks like this. Okay, so with that being said, that is the event tick. In short, the event tick just means that we're going to execute whatever's along this pathway, and it's going to execute n amount of times depending on your frame rate. So remember, you have 100 frames per second, it's going to execute 100 times per second. 200 frames per second, it's going to execute 200 times per second. So with that being said, if you found this tutorial useful, I ask you to please like and subscribe. And until the next one, bye-bye.